Good day to everyone watching, coming to you straight from England. Today we have a fresh episode of Smackdown, which means I'll have to stay up all night again. Well, that's a small thing, because in the morning I'll wake up and see lots and lots of likes on this very video. And as we know, that's all we need to be happy. And you can also subscribe to Boosty or the premium Telegram channel. Everything is linked in the description. So let's get started right away. Let's go. After all the intros and commercials, the main part of the show begins, and right away we have an orchestra in kilts playing a tune everyone knows. Of course, everyone understands that it's time for the new main WWE champion who made a splash last week to appear on television. They decided not to spare any time or money at all, so the entrance lasted almost 10 minutes and they brought in quite a lot of fireworks too. Here he actually looked more like a face. The guy says that he prayed for this to happen, and now here he is with the title. He reminds everyone that he is the first and only WWE champion of British descent. His last week turned out to be extremely eventful because so much happened. All the fans are supporting him, but why the hell does he need that now? Where were all those fans who did nothing when he was being fired? Where was everyone when CM Punk was giving them a hard time for so long? Where was everyone when he couldn't win the title from Roman Reigns? That's why he comes to the conclusion that the only person to thank for Drew holding the title right now is himself. He now allows the "Thank you, Drew" chant, which the fans pick up. He also decided to address Cody Rhodes, mentioning several times that he is now the former champion. Of course he'll want a rematch, but he'll have to get over the embarrassment that happened last week. Drew won't give any rematch. And if Rhodes wants a shot at the title, he'll have to start all over again from the very beginning. But, by the way, it's worth noting that he's not even participating in the qualifying matches. Logically, you could conclude that he'll be back in the Rumble, but I think we'll have time to talk about that in the near future. Drew finishes his speech, which means someone has to interrupt him, and of course that person turns out to be Randy Orton. Besides the fact that he's tired of the disrespect being shown, he reminds everyone that Orton is also moving toward a title match, and let's not forget that he's already beaten him once before, so it's pretty clear where their match is headed. At this point, their heated exchange is interrupted by Jacob Fatu's music as he confidently makes his way to the ring. And without any hesitation, he attacks Drew McIntyre. Drew barely manages to fight him off and escape, but a satisfied Orton is suddenly hit with a super kick from behind. A crushing finish. As you can imagine, right after the commercial break, we move on to a match that is part of, you could say, the tournament to determine the #1 contender for the WWE Championship. Here we have Randy Orton versus The Miz. In my personal experience, over the years they've had, well, a lot of matches against each other, and for some reason, not a single one of them stands out in my memory. This one was no exception, because the focus was simply on the fans' reaction and they just used basic moves. And there's no way I'll believe that The Miz is going to beat Randy now, but something needs to be done about this already. So yeah, today Randy Orton got an easy win, and he's heading to the Saturn date main event in a fatal 4-way match. Backstage, Drew McIntyre tries to escape, but he's interrupted by Ilya Dragunov, who says they've never faced each other in the ring, and that means he'll do everything he can to make it happen. McIntyre doesn't care what he wants, because right now he needs to deal with Jacob Fatu, and only after that can they talk about a match. We were shown a promo from the Wyatt family who say that last week Solo Sikoa went way too far. However, that doesn't mean anything because the Wyatts are sure they'll get their revenge. Somewhere backstage are Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. The latter isn't happy that she got beaten up last week because she was alone. And she suspects that Charlotte wasn't actually sick at all and just decided to set her up. Nevertheless, her friend insists that everything is fine between them. Then Lash Legend and Nia Jax showed up to continue the teasing. However, none of that worked and Charlotte just smirked and walked away. We move on to the next match, and here we have Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss versus Kiana James and Julia. Well, finally, a non-classic tag team match in the division, because it's starting to get annoying that it's always the same matchups. I wouldn't say it turned out to be a wow match, but it was pleasant to watch. Despite some disagreements, the faces still show in the ring that they're best friends and that no one is going to break up their team. No one is planning to, which I like. The match was given plenty of time, and each of the women had a chance to showcase themselves. Yes, even Kiana finally did something on the blue brand instead of just randomly losing to someone. The match ended very abruptly after a Sister Abigail from Alexa Bliss. Immediately after the match, Nia Jax and Lash decided to attack the faces, and this time of course Charlotte Flair got it. Julia decided to confront the bad girls, but Kiana managed to pull her friend away. We are shown a promo with Velocico, who responds to Bodalas. He agrees that nothing is finished between them, and the ultimate goal of MFT will be to win the tag team titles, and only then can the story come to an end. After a rather quick commercial break, it turns out that Cody Rhodes is already making his way to the ring. He says that life is just like a set of scenes. Everyone has gotten so used to him coming out here every week and saying something. He wants to answer everyone's question about why he always says something at the start of his entrance, what he comes out for. Do you want to talk? Because he is not a corporate champion, but a champion of all the fans. Well, he was. At this point, he got some serious boos from the crowd. He started thinking, what if Drew really is that good? And the crowd erupted again. Rhodes decided to talk about legacy and mentioned Stone Cold Steve Austin, who is in the history books because he won the Royal Rumble 3 times. And it seems like it's time to make history because Rhodes officially announces himself as a participant in the Royal Rumble. If there's no other way to get a match against McIntyre, then he's ready to win the Rumble again. But for now, he wants to talk about Jacob Fatu, who cost him the title last week. Either he comes to talk one-on-one, man-to-man, or Rhodes will have to go find him and knock some sense into him. That's something you can't take away from Rhodes, of course. He started out getting booed, but in the end, he got the best reaction on the show so far, except of course for Drew McIntyre. Backstage, Matt Cardona is being interviewed. He says it was unpleasant to watch Rhodes lose the title last week, but that doesn't matter. We need to look back at history because Cardona was actually McIntyre's very first opponent in the company many years ago. And now he's back to prove to everyone that he deserves to be champion. And he will become one. We continue the show and move on to the match between Trick Williams and Matt Cardona. I didn't like that this match was booked, because these are two guys who are just about to make it to Smackdown and neither of them needs to lose right now. Well, I'm not talking about Zack Ryder. Here we have Cardona, who is aiming for the main title. Trick, of course, is young and really needs to be pushed, especially after what he achieved in NXT. I liked how the match was built and how Trick revealed himself in the heel role. By the way, he does it really well. I also noticed that Cardona doesn't really have any kind of gimmick. Before, at least people would react to his entrance, but now there's nothing to latch onto at all, unfortunately. In the end, Trick Williams scored a clean victory after landing a knee to the face. Welcome back to the mid-card, Matt Cardona. Right after the match, Keith Wilson's magnificent music hits, and he comes out to the ring. The first thing he does is attack Matt Cardona and revels in it. They actually just released his song, and it kind of reminded me of Fandango, who also became popular thanks to his entrance music way back in 2013. And again, after the commercial break, we're back in the ring and Keith Wilson is still there talking about how there are a lot of problems in this company and that he's the one who can fix everything. He's ready to become a leader for all the fans, but his speech is suddenly interrupted by the unexpected appearance of Jacob Fatu, a super kick and of course a moonsault. He grabs the microphone and... Jeremy, if you've got something to say, then bring your ass out here and let's talk. The former WWE champion didn't keep us waiting and headed straight to the ring. They started stalling for time and just began beating each other up. However, let's not forget what's about to begin. It's WrestleMania season, so to ramp up the emotional intensity, security came in and separated the wrestlers. They were just about ready to keep fighting, but suddenly everything cut to commercials again. By the way, they didn't drag it out for us and announced the match between them for Saturday night main event. We move on to another qualifying match where Damian Priest and Solo Sikoa faced off. Two strange guys who seem to be top stars of the brand, yet haven't done anything noteworthy for a very long time. I can't shake off this feeling of artificial importance for some reason. Nevertheless, I thought it would turn out much worse, but there was actually some chemistry between them. Still, I can't take them seriously, if only because nothing can really happen here that would lead them to fight for the WWE Championship anytime soon. They simply don't need that right now. By the way, for the first time in a long while, the Siakov family showed up today without any face paint. I think they look much better this way. Plus, it's hard to even imagine how much time was spent on all that every week. As for the match, no one really doubted there would be interference. MFT actually handles that really well. In the end, the Wyatt family ran in to help Damian Priest and they beat up all the members of MFT. After the match, Bodalos tried to take the lamp that Soloshikov had stolen, but he was attacked by Tumba Yumba and the segment ended with the heels coming out on top. Backstage, Sami Zayn runs into Drew McIntyre. The Canadian says that today he has an important match against Ilya Dragunov. It will be a tough fight, but he can handle it. Drew replies that their match record is actually 1-1 and it's unlikely that anything will change. Zayn responds, we'll see, and they simply go their separate ways. I like that the open challenge for the United States Championship continues because the surprises just keep coming. Today, Carmelo Hayes faces off against Leon Slater. Maybe not many people know him, but he's a promising talent from TNA where he's actually the X-Division champion. Well, he's already been in WWE because he took part in a tag team match at the pay-per-view dedicated to John Cena's last match. The wrestlers are just a perfect match for each other, and it feels like they've already had a ton of matches together because they were simply unstoppable. Of course, there were some slow moments at times, but overall the match was fought at an incredibly fast pace. As usual, they were given a ton of time, so if you want to watch the match or the whole show, don't forget that we have a Telegram channel where we post all the most important wrestling shows, so make sure to subscribe using the link in the description. Even in the middle of the match, the fans started chanting for SSO and you just couldn't disagree with them. Unfortunately, it all came to an end as Carmelo Hayes successfully executed his suplex cutter from the top rope and managed to retain the United States Championship. It looked dangerous for Callian Slater's jaw. It turned out that backstage, Shinsuke Nakamura was watching the whole thing unfold. Tamatonga approaches him and says that the Japanese wrestler has already had his chance and lost, so the Samoan wants to win the title and Nakamura had better not stand in his way. Shinsuke didn't hesitate at all and just cut a promo in Japanese. Of course, no one understood anything, but the translator told me that Nakamura said you should like this video. Somewhere backstage, Johnny Gargano is still having fun, and then it turns out that Fraser also put on a mask and attacked him. Now, an official match will be scheduled for next week. Gargano versus Fraser. Ciampa hasn't appeared on the show for several weeks now, and apparently the rumors are true. His contract with the company is coming to an end, and for one reason or another, he doesn't want to sign a new deal. So for now, it looks like DIY is over, and Johnny will be going solo. We continue to present Jordynne Grace as a big future star for the main roster. And today, logically, her opponent is Chelsea Green. It feels like other matches ran long, so they gave this one very little time. And no matter how much they tried to show that Grace was being beaten up by hand, with Chelsea Green, that was hard to pull off. I still tend to think this was just a squash match. Apparently they've decided to give up on Chelsea too. After the match, the winner decided to address Jordynne Grace. She's glad the champion saw her in the ring because now she knows exactly what to expect. If Jade is ready to stop dodging matches like a child, then it's time to step into the ring and settle everything right now. At that moment, Chelsea Green came to her senses and accidentally attacked the champion. Meanwhile, Grace picked up the title and raised it above her head. So yes, we'll be seeing a match between them very soon. And for some reason, I'm actually looking forward to this. Backstage, Take Billings is being interviewed. He showed everyone what he's capable of today, and he plans to keep doing it on a regular basis. He says he'll be making money for this company for a long time, and he's glad that Orton and Priest have the chance to face him in the ring because they need to face the future. Damian Priest approaches him and says that enough talk has been had. Next week on Smackdown they're free so they can have a match without any problem. It was announced that next week we'll find out who the new contenders will be. For the women's titles, MFT will face the Wyatt family for the Tag Team Championship. There will also be a match between Williams and Priest, but they didn't have time to make a graphic, so it was just mentioned. And so we've reached the main event of the show where Ilya Dragunov faced Sami Zayn. Yes, we remember their previous encounter and it was magnificent. It's hard to say whether this match was better or not because it was different. That's what I like about wrestlers like this, because you never really know what to expect from them. I really like that we're already on the road to Mania, and it's still unclear where the storylines will lead. Yeah, even the insiders are keeping quiet. I have a feeling there will be some interview later where a wrestler will talk about how well they kept all the plans secret. Both Zayn and Dragunov, man, there's something else. They both deserve to win the main title, but even regardless of today's match result, I don't think they'll be able to do it at this point in time. Ilya is still too young, but Zayn should win the championship at Mania if they actually decide to take that step. It's hard for me to say much about the match because you just have to watch it, as I already mentioned where you can watch it. I can also tell you that we have a news Telegram channel where we are the first to post wrestling news because we get them directly from foreign sources. As much as we wish it wouldn't end, we've now reached the finale. Sami Zayn managed to pull himself together and delivered a winning hell of a kick which sent him to Saturn, the night main event. Now the score between them is 1-1, so we can clearly expect another match in the near future. One more match. Right after the match, Zayn was celebrating, but Trick Williams attacked him from behind, delivering his signature knee strike to the face and coming out as the overall winner of the night. On that note, the show went off the air. That's how this week's episode of Smackdown turned out. It's rare, of course, that I trash a show, and today I won't break with my tradition. Honestly, everything here was as balanced and neat as possible. There was a lot of wrestling. I probably can't even remember the last time there was this much wrestling. And they even managed to develop some storylines. Times are tough right now since there will be 2 pay-per-views in a row, so there's a lot to prepare. The next episode of the Blue Brand will be broadcast straight from Canada, which means it will air at a convenient time for the US. And let's be honest, it's better for me too because it's just impossible to go to bed at 4 AM, sleep, and then get up at 6 AM. Alright, I'm off to get my usual 2 hours of sleep, and that was it from me. Oscar Guardian, bye. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Smackdown. Why are you acting like strangers, not like family, not like my favorites, huh?